of the terrorist group in Libya, accused of the murder of 4 U.S. officials and the burning of the U.S. consulate back in 2012, is in U.S. custody. Good afternoon. I'm Brittany Pieper.
And I'm Angie Bailey. U.S. troops conducted a raid Sunday, capturing the man thought to be responsible for the Benghazi attacks. NBC's Steve Handelsman is in Washington with details and reaction.
Officials say U.S. intelligence tracked the man who led the attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Ahmed Abu Khattala, for a year. And U.S. commandos grabbed him Sunday on the outskirts of Benghazi.
A real bad guy is no longer walking around.
President Obama gave a green light to the mission and said today in Pittsburgh, the arrest sends a message he wants the world to hear.
That when Americans are attacked, no matter how long it takes, we will find those responsible and we will bring them to justice.
After the U.S. consulate was burned on September 11th, 2012, and Ambassador Chris Stevens plus 3 others were killed, critics charged that President Obama, running for re-election, and then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, tried to cover up this was a terrorist attack. Critics today praised the arrest.
I'm very happy for the folks who put the operation together, and well done.
But treat Khattala, they demand, as a terrorist, not a criminal.
Read them their rights and get them a lawyer. I hope they're not doing that. The most valuable thing we can get from this terrorist is information.
Khattala is in American custody, presumably on board a U.S. warship like this, and will be sent not to Guantanamo, but to the U.S. to face a criminal trial and possible death penalty, charged with murder and terrorism. President Obama and Republican leaders agree efforts should and will continue to arrest anybody else responsible for the Benghazi attack. I'm Steve Handelsman, NBC News, Washington.
A Columbia City Council vote means a development group is off the hook for having to pay for some of the infrastructure downtown improvements, but it does not mean that they can't build a controversial student housing complex. Right now, it's a parking lot, but the Opus Group wants to turn the land into a 6-story student housing complex. A lot of people not too happy with that idea. Thousands of citizens signed a petition asking the city council to repeal an ordinance approving the agreement. At last night's meeting, the council did just that. But as KOMU 8's Amanda Weston shows us, that does not mean the project is completely scrapped.
The Opus Group wants to make room for more students downtown, but some citizens worry the city can't handle it. In the midst of what Councilwoman Ginny Chadwick calls an infrastructure crisis, the city needs funds to improve electric and water systems.
What would be a crisis and what is a crisis is to continue to authorize new uses without any solutions in place.
An ordinance would have required Opus to contribute nearly $500,000 for improvements. But after petitions and speeches, City Council voted to repeal it. Opposition group Repeal 6214 collected more than 3,400 signatures protesting the development. However, this latest council vote does not prevent Opus from building the complex. It just means the city will have to find other ways to pay for the infrastructure improvements. The future for the proposed complex is still unclear.
The idea that the city would tell a developer that it cannot proceed with development because it has inadequate infrastructure, absent some contribution, and then when the citizens have expressed opposition to that project, they were going to allow it to proceed anyway without adequate infrastructure, frankly, is shocking to me.
Chadwick says the project meets all zoning requirements to get building permits, and Opus has threatened to sue if the city doesn't approve the development.
KOMU reached out to Opus for comment today, but we didn't get a response. Chadwick also told KOMU she has not heard anything from the group.
A Columbia man says he's concerned about crime in his neighborhood following a shooting at a park last night. KOMU 8's Mahir Bagat joins us in the studio with more details.
A Columbia man is worried about crime in his neighborhood, particularly drug-related activity. He lives near Worley Street Park, where the shooting happened. He wouldn't give me his name because he's concerned about his safety. He says he heard 3 gunshots around 7 last night and saw men driving away from the scene. He says he and other neighbors see drug-related activity at the park every day, and the problem is getting worse. He believes the shooting could have been avoided.
I do what I can to push the issue and get these guys out here and looking, and know the police just, it seems like it's not a high priority to them.
Columbia police have not given us any updates on the shooting today or confirmed that it was drug-related. One 18-year-old man suffered non-life-threatening injuries.
One person was sent to the hospital last night after a car rolled off the road and into a ditch. Firefighters had to get the driver out of the car using hydraulic rescue cutters to remove the roof. That's according to Battalion Chief John Metz. The driver was the only person in the car and was taken to University Hospital.
A new roundabout at Scott Boulevard and Barter School Road opened up to drivers this morning. Sidewalks and the flowers that will go there aren't done yet, but it is open to drive. However, north of the intersection to Bellevue on Scott will remain closed until August.
A St. Louis lawsuit is trying to block the public from voting on the proposed constitutional amendment that would limit tenure protections for public school teachers. The lawsuit was filed today and calls the ballot initiative unconstitutional. They say it would change two parts of the Constitution, one dealing with education, the other with collective bargaining. This would limit teachers to 3-year contracts and require evaluations to be based on student performance.
A Columbia Public Works project that started off as merely a demolition project has turned into an historical preservation effort. When workers began tearing down the old Public Works building inside Cosmo Park, they discovered a piece of Columbia history. Under the tarp is an old sign belonging to the Stevens College Aviation Department. We'll have more on the meaning and where it's going tonight on KOMU 8 News at 9 and 10. A small Nebraska town in ruins after not one but 2 tornadoes went through. Hillary Clinton says she isn't the only woman qualified to run for president, and the Smithsonian held a special ceremony today. KOMU 8's Mike Lindquist joins us with the latest from around the nation.
Thank you, Angie. Nebraska's Governor Dave Heineman toured the damage in Pilger, Nebraska this morning. Twin tornadoes ripped through the town Monday afternoon. 75% of the buildings in Pilger were damaged or destroyed. Dozens were injured and taken to the hospital. 2 people were killed, including a 5-year-old girl. Governor Heineman declared a state of emergency, and National Guard troops are already on site. Hillary Clinton says more women can run for president. Clinton says she's not ready to declare her candidacy for the next presidential race in 2016, but also says she isn't the only woman qualified. She said American politics has become far more difficult than when she ran for president back in 2008. She says she's going to take her time before deciding, and she knows women must break that barrier. A special naturalization ceremony was held at the Smithsonian today. The ceremony welcomed 15 new Americans from 15 different countries. This was all in honor of the 200th anniversary of the 15-star, 15-stripe flag, the flag that inspired the national anthem. American designer Ralph Lauren was awarded the James Smithson Bicentennial Medal at the age of 74. He plays a major role in the preservation of the Star-Spangled Banner. And that is your first look around the nation.
Vice President Joe Biden says he's assured Brazil's president of the United States surveillance program. Biden met with Brazilian officials earlier today. Improving the nation's relationship with Brazil was the goal of the trip, but that doesn't mean that he didn't take some time to see some soccer. Biden arrived in Brazil yesterday just in time to watch the U.S. team's 2-1 victory over Ghana. Shiite and Sunni leaders in Iraq call for national unity in the face of an onslaught. Late today, a car bomb killed at least 12 people and injured 30 more in Baghdad. The blast targeted a crowded market, and at least 11 Iraqi cities are being held by Sunni militants right now. And a bullfight over the weekend left at least 10 people injured. There was panic after a drunk man untied the rope, supposedly to protect people from the bull. The bull charged the crowd, and people in the crowd jumped into the ring to drag people to safety.
A hot, sweaty afternoon, another one out there. Let's check in with meteorologist Rosie Newberry to see if that heat's going to be sticking around.
Unfortunately, it is. Angie, we're just about to the point where summer's going to be kicking in. It's coming this Saturday. Let's talk about temperatures right now across mid-Missouri. A lot of us made it to that 90-degree mark today. Most of us made it into the upper 80s. But check out, that's our temperatures. This is what our heat index is right now. Most of us feel like the middle to upper 90s. Really painfully sweaty out there. Certainly a sticky afternoon to boot, and it's not going away very quickly. Should have just a few passing clouds tonight. Overnight temperatures aren't even going to be all that cool. We'll be starting tomorrow already into the 70s. Talking more about another new warmest day of 2014 that's going to be coming tomorrow afternoon. We've got to talk about chances of rain as well. We'll take a full look at your forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Do you like to walk when you can? In some cities, it's easier than others. We'll tell you where those cities are coming up.
Right now, you're taking a live look over the Sedalia area. It's 5:08, and this is KOMU 8 News First at 5, coverage you can count on.